The self-proclaimed wrestling god did it. Moose went through 6 other men, 6 of Impact Wrestling's top stars, to become the number 1 contender to the Impact World Heavyweight Championship at Against All Odds in June against current champion Kenny Omega. Now this means trouble for Kenny Omega and his crew, which includes the Good Brothers and the Young Bucks and Don Callis, but it also spells trouble for Impact Wrestling itself because, as we talked about it last week, Moose's contract is coming up this very June, just like he mentioned on Twitter, on his social media, and Against All Odds might be his farewell match. He might go out putting Kenny Omega over as this dominant champion, or as a champion that cannot lose because of his friends. Who knows where Impact Wrestling takes it with that. But it's an interesting place for them to be in, because like I said, Moose might be leaving, he might be re-signing. I'm hoping he re-signs because there's just so much talent in WWE and in NXT and in Ring of Honor and in AEW that if Moose would show up, would pop up in any one of these shows, sure, he'd make an impact, no pun intended, but it would take him a while to really establish himself in the way that he has for Impact Wrestling, and I feel like Moose would kind of get lost in the shuffle over there at those other companies at this time, at this moment. That's not to say that he can't succeed. He has all the tools to succeed. He's proven that over the past year, building up his body, building up his rapport, building up his image. And now, it all comes down to negotiations. Can Impact Wrestling lock him down? Is it financially viable to lock Moose down? Those are things I do not know, especially considering the fact that they might be re-signing, or there's a slight possibility that Samoa Joe might be showing up at Slammiversary, and that's going to be a hefty price tag that, because of distribution purposes and how far Impact Wrestling has fallen up to this point on the totem pole, they might not be able to afford at this point in time. But the fact is, Moose went through a legend. He decimated a legend, a former Impact World Champion in James Storm, to qualify for that 6-man number 1 contenders match and Under Siege. He then beat Sami Callihan. He beat Trey Miguel. He beat Chris Sabin. He beat Chris Bey. He beat Matt Cardona. 5 of the top superstars who also qualified for this big match at the Impact Plus special. So Moose has all the momentum in the world going into this match. Can he overcome the Good Brothers and the Young Bucks and Don Callis and Kenny Omega on top of that to take back what is rightfully theirs, and that's the company's Impact World Championship? Can he do that? And if he does that, will it be of any importance to the company? And the answer to both of those questions is yes. Yes, we talked about it last week. Moose has really transformed his work ethic, his image, everything about him just spells top guy. And if he can beat Kenny Omega, and if they pull the trigger on beating Kenny Omega at Against All Odds, this June, Moose will come out looking like a big superstar, bigger than he ever has been presented to us at any point in time during his 5-year run with Impact Wrestling. And that also opens up possibilities. Moose versus Joe. Moose versus Rich Swann, a rematch. Moose versus Chris Bey for the Impact World Championship. Against Sami Callihan. Against Eddie Edwards for the world title. And for the most part, I consider Moose to be a homegrown talent. I know he appeared on Ring of Honor Wrestling, but that was like 5 years ago. Other than Eddie Edwards, Moose is the longest tenured current Impact Wrestling star on the roster. So with that said, all in all, it's going to be some interesting weeks leading up to Against All Odds. I'll be keeping up with the wrestling news, with wrestling social media, with Moose's account itself, to see if there are any updates in terms of whether he's re-signed with the company or not. Because if he hasn't, by the time Against All Odds comes, I doubt, seriously doubt, that Impact Wrestling would pull such a PR move and put their title, their top title, on a non-contracted superstar just for the sake of making a headline. So if you ask me right here, right now, he hasn't re-signed his contract yet. That's, as far as I know, that's the last update I've been reading online. So even with all of this said, Kenny Omega retains his Impact World Championship at Against All Odds. And if it were up to me, it all depends on AEW, Tony Khan, and Kenny Omega themselves as well. But if it were up to me, I'd keep the Impact World Championship on Kenny Omega until October at Bound for Glory, at their biggest pay-per-view of the year, where someone, I don't know who, Eddie Edwards, Sami Callihan, or returning Samoa Joe, someone takes the title off of Kenny Omega, and balance is restored in the Impact Wrestling world. But again, those are my thoughts, those are my predictions right here, right now. Who knows what's going to happen down the line? All in all, tune in later on tonight on Access TV for another edition, another episode of Impact Wrestling. Again, what people are saying on social media about the product, don't sleep on Impact. They've been putting one hell of a show each and every single week, and if you don't watch it, you're missing out on it big time. I've been Alexis Carrillo. Have a great rest of your Thursday night, and see you next time.